Hey everybody, it's Jackie G and welcome to Art Talk Tuesday. For those of you that are joining us, we've set up October as our Arttober, and what we try and do this month is to have some special guests during the month and try and introduce you to some interesting people in our industry, either manufacturers or artists, and just to keep it a little bit different. So thanks very much for tuning in. For those of you that aren't familiar with us, we've been in art materials for over 50 years here in Toronto. So I want to welcome anybody that's watching us in Toronto and anywhere across North America. So today's a little bit different. I know last week we had Isabel Santos, Modulatura, and she joined us for discussing urban sketchers, and today is actually another guest, and I'll be telling you about them in just a second. Next week, actually the end of the month, which is on October the 28th, it's a Friday, our next guest will be Alexandra from Alexandra's Art Insanity, so we'll be posting about it and you can join us then. So today's a little bit different, and I'm sure a lot of you are interested in our guest today. His name is Neil Gwartzman, and he is the representative for Fome. A lot of you are familiar with the Fome products from Italy. I'm going to let Neil do a lot of the talking about the company because I'm sure you're very interested in it. I will disclose Neil is my brother. So any of you that are wondering about the similarity in the name, yes, it is. So if you have questions during the talk, please type it in and let us know. And I'll do my best to answer them while we're chatting. If we don't get to it, or it's something that I can't answer or Neil can't answer, we'll post it later on and make sure that your questions are all answered. So I noticed that Neil has requested to join us, and so we're going to go live with Neil in just a second. Hopefully that's going to happen in just a minute, and we'll see. And as I say, with live, we are not professionals here. Oh, there he is. So it worked. How you doing, Neil?
Good. How are you this morning? Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Nice to see you from far. Well, you're sort of far away, but always nice to connect with Neil, who is my brother.
The young, handsome one, I like to say.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm the better-looking older one.
And we're on the same time zone, which makes it even easier to talk.
Yeah, that's great. So thanks very much for joining us. I didn't want to give too much away before we started chatting about what you do and representing Fome. So I thought what we could start off with is just to have you give a little bit of background about you and a little bit of information about the Fome company. And then we had talked about, some of the things we want anybody who's joining us to know about. And of course, I've suggested if they have any questions about the products or anything they want to know, they can let us know while we're chatting.
Sounds good. That's a plan.
Great. So take it away, Neil.
So thank you for having me, Jackie, and the crew at Gwartzman's Art Supplies. I much appreciate this. So as Jackie mentioned, I am her brother. I've been in the art industry for my entire life, actually. Grew up in Toronto and was involved in the arts community. And then from there started doing business with other countries, looking at manufacturing different products. I've developed products in over 30 countries and introduced them to whether it be art companies or retail shops globally. So it's nice to see that when I see products in different countries or in different stores, wherever I'm traveling to, it always feels good to see that. So at this time, I'm director of Fome Manufacturing, which is based in Italy. It's a family-owned, which we love saying. It's family-owned and run Our company's been in business since 1970, and its founders, Bruno Forte and Attilio Menigan, were the founders of the company. And basically they started not directly in the art business. They were metal engineers. So they created metal, whether it be screws and hinges, products for furniture companies, for other companies in Italy. And the company is based just outside of Venice. It's about 2 hours north, and it's situated in a very special region. If anyone likes to drink Prosecco, it is the capital for Prosecco where it's being made. And they were kind of plopped in the middle of it and surrounded by beautiful orchards. So it's a wonderful place with freshwater access to Germany, Austria, Slovenia, Croatia, all within almost arm's reach. So we have availability of raw materials that are very accessible. So we got involved with art products as there were actually wood companies that were making artist easels. And they were making them for the domestic market and a little bit of export. Some of the famous styles of what we call country easels, which were the three-legged easels that you'd see in the old movies of Van Gogh traveling and he's got his easel on his back. Those type of easels, companies would come to us and say, we need hinges, or we need a better support. We need something that's stronger than wood that will withstand the elements of where we're located, because it was in a northern part. It was a little bit colder in the winter and a little bit warmer in the summer. And so we started making some of the nuts and bolts for those country easels to make them much stronger. And then from then, instead of using all wood materials, they started incorporating some metal brackets and metal pieces to make them even stronger to support larger canvases, heavier items. And from that, we basically started with easels. And then some of the wood manufacturers said, hey, can you make a metal easel as well? So we started our own arts division making metal easels. And from that just seemed to grow with art products. And it was more of word of mouth. Companies said, hey, Foamy's making this amazing metal travel easel. Can you make a larger easel? So we started making slightly larger easels. And from that, artists and art people in the art community, and of course, being in Italy, we're surrounded by art history. Artists would say, what else do we need, whether it be for travel purposes, whether it be in the studio. There was a lot of studio artists, as well as artists working on commissions, the great artists who were doing what would be the Sistine Chapel, or working on their own works, started asking us for different accessories, because they demand when they're going on the move, whether they're doing a commission of a portrait or a painting, they started asking for other products. So we started expanding our product line. And from there, we started getting into, for example, pallets. So we'd introduce, again, something other than a wood pallet. We started coming up with metal pallets, something, again, that would withstand the elements of nature, also withstand if you were using oil paints or gouache paints, or paints that had a base of plaster, and you need something easy to clean, easy to stick to, strong enough that it wouldn't bend. So we started coming out with very workable metal pallets. And again, we started off with small ones. And as, again, the demand built, we started going larger and larger to a traditional size of pallet.
Can I ask you a question? How large? I mean, we have one here. I pulled out some of the products that we also have. So is this the biggest one?
That is the largest. Yes.
That is the largest.
That is the largest.
And
so,
we talked about this. So this is metal, right?
Correct. It's a steel pallet, and what we call it's baked. So we actually have a process, a proprietary process, where we it's coated and baked a number of times with an enamel coating to ensure that it's easy to clean, withstand mediums. Again, has the hole, as I can see, so to put your thumb through, so it's like a traditional pallet. Yeah. It stays raised because of the wells on the bottom, stays raised off the sitting flat on, there you go, sitting flat on a table, and very, very durable. So again, we have companies that are doing from working with plaster and chalk paints and oil paints, watercolor, gouache, you name it. we've had artists from, Japan, Germany, Italy, France, using all types of mediums.
So we actually have a couple questions that just came in, so I want to just ask you. So someone is asking, would that then be considered a non-stick palette?
Non-stick, yes. Of course, acrylic paint will dry to it, but it can be peeled off and can be removed.
Okay, so that's sort of like
and same with oil paint. So you can use oil paint and then take, a light cloth with some turpentine or spirits, and quickly, you're never letting, of course, on any palette, letting it sit, but you're removing it and keeping it clean.
Okay, someone else asked if there's one that they have yet where the center, so the circles would go around the center of it, as opposed to being off to the side like this. Have they done anything? I think that
you mean like a kidney
Mary's
shape?
I think Mary's question was, if I can see it, is that there's a place with a mixing surface in the middle. So I guess that is too flat to be a mixing surface.
Well, because it's not depressed, right? So it's not going to go down. But we have seen artists who will, leave their brushes sitting there, or use that as a center. Let's see, I think I have one here. Yeah. A center area, right, for wiping the extra or blending some colors there.
Okay, but nothing that's indented.
Nothing that's indented at this time.
Okay.
But again, we always, that's the great thing about our company. We listen to what other artists request and what we're looking for, see if there's a demand, and then we come out with it, if it's even to test the market.
Sure. I actually had another question, and something that I think we chatted about before. This palette, or these palettes, are made to fit into the wood boxes, correct?
Correct. So they'll fit into a lot of the standard boxes. We started, with a lot of the travel wood boxes that were out there, 30, 40, 50 years back, the smaller portable country boxes.
Yeah.
We were making the small ones for, because, again, there was limited palettes. People weren't carrying, 50, 60 tubes of paint with them. So we had the small ones. As some of the boxes we started to see in the market started to get a little bit larger, we started making a larger one.
Okay.
And then, of course, as they have the, the French travel boxes and the outdoor boxes, that's when we started making a larger one to fit into those boxes.
Okay. Actually, Neil, I just wanted to show the palette that you just showed has the metal cups there. And you were telling me that there's a couple different kinds of metal cups.
Yes. So this is, again, one of the traditional items that we started off with as early as the late 70s. Again, for travel purposes, artists are going out in the field, they're on commission, and they wanted to mix mediums, and they wanted something, instead of just, dumping it, we started making a travel pallet cup with the clip. We have a number of different sizes. One of them, of course, this is quite a popular one for travel, and it's airtight. And again, especially for watercolor artists who have the smaller brushes and they want to fill it with mediums or water, it's easy to access, it's non-spillable, and again, with the clip. So we produce these in the singles as well as the doubles. And then for the artist that wants a little bit bigger in the studio, you can clip this to your wood palettes or your disposable mixing pads. We have them with tops or without tops.
Now, the one that you showed before with the cover, that's better. Is better for watercolor than the open one?
Well, because it has, if you're watercolorists who are traveling or on the go, you can fill it with water. I like to travel with two of them. So I have one that's cleaning and one with maybe a medium that I've mixed up for painting.
Okay.
But because it's a screw-on as opposed to just a press-on plastic lid, it's airtight. And it has the washer in there to keep your medium wet. Okay,
and just because I'm sure someone might ask, the water won't make the metal go rusty?
No, so these are all stainless steel, and what we do is we have, again, a special process of dipping it in a special metal base that prevents rust. We always recommend, and it's in a lot of our brochures, that you never leave mediums for long periods of time, especially any of the chemical-based ones, because after long periods of time, it's just the elements in nature take their turn and start to work on anything. So after, if it's going from day to day to day and you're using it, that's fine. But if it's going to be sitting there for months, we always recommend that you empty them out, let them dry, and then until you're going to be using it again.
All right, great. Okay. And I guess you were going to tell me about some of the other, before we get into a lot of the palettes that you and I had talked about, maybe we can just sort of mention some of the other things that Foamy makes, because I know we have quite a few of their, I mean, I can't see it, and I know if I move the camera, it's going to mess things up. But I know that if you can just mention some of the other products that Foamy manufactures, because I say we have a lot of palettes to talk about, but what are the other big things that someone might be familiar with if they're looking online for their product, or that we will?
So what we're actually famous for is our travel pallet boxes. That's one thing that we take a lot of pride in. We started making them just from the demand of art companies, paint companies that were making the pens or cakes of colors. So they were using the traditional, whether it be a full pen that you see or the half pens, having the paints put in there. And then, of course, what do you do with them? Once you buy these paints, where are you putting them? And we were approached by a couple paint companies and said, hey, we need a good quality box. What can you come up with? So Mr. Menigan designed, he's an engineer as well, came up with a style of box and wanted to make sure that the box was going to hold your pens in place. So this is our original box. We call it the Napoleon. It's called also the Bijou box. People have called it the Skechers box, the Field Skechers box, under a number of different names. But this is our most famous box. And it has on it a key ring, so it can be used right-handed or left-handed. And you put it through your finger, and you open your palette, and you can use it. Basically, some people call them the palm boxes, the pocket boxes. But we made them to hold your half pans or your full pans. And we designed it specially with a patented track system, these small little tracks that fit into place, and they lock either your half pans or your full pans. And we made this so it could hold half pans and full pans.
Can you show us on your hand how it fits?
Yes, sure.
Just hold it up.
Let me just lock it in place here. So you see the pans aren't falling out. I'm holding it. Oh, that time they did. You know why? Because I did not lock in the, it's funny, we started including instructions because you never know. There you go. So it's locked in place. And these are the track systems here, these two tracks that lock your pans in place.
Okay.
And then the center portion can be used to hold more pans. So it can actually hold 12 pans. Or if you have a small brush, we've seen people put small pencils in there, a bit of a kneaded eraser.
Yeah.
But this model can hold both your half and your full pans.
I know that we did put some of the Tintoretto travel brushes. They fit.
Yes.
Right. There's a couple of them that fit right inside there.
Correct.
But that fits in your, it's basically the size of your palm, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Just to show how small it is quite small. Yeah,
it's just about just past 3 inches in length.
Wow. So it really is easy to travel with. Really
handy. And again, it typically you see most people just putting in 8 colors, but we've seen great assortments of 12 color palettes. And we've seen artists who have sent us pictures where they have their fall box, their winter box, their summer box, all with the colors that they're using on the go, whether it be traveling or just heading out in the field, and they want the colors that are of the season.
Yeah, we had a guest from who's an urban sketcher, Isabel Santos, and she was telling us about the different bags that she has ready for traveling. So it's the same idea. Artists always have something ready depending where they're going, what time of year, that type of thing.
Yes, and I don't have my pocket, but it fits perfectly just in the pocket, jacket pocket. And again, this was our first style of box that we designed. Extremely durable, heavyweight steel. It's just a great box that works.
Great.
And that's why it's been so popular. You've seen other companies, paint companies, who will feature our box and have their paints in it.
Okay, and what other boxes would they be known for?
The Flask Box, that's our next also. And again, it was based for the demand of the artist on the go. They're going in the field. They want something where they have, if they don't have their pallet cups, right? We wanted to make an all-in-one box, that's the one, with a built-in flask. So fill it with your favorite medium, your favorite spirits. Here's your clip-on water cup. It clips on.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And some people just, they can use it separately. But this way you have your water cup, and then you have all your pans. See, this one I have 12 pans in there.
Yeah.
And just, again, a really, really handy box. The water cup fits on top when you're done. You just make sure it's screwed down. And with the finger, same thing.
So would you put the cover to over the top?
Yeah, over the brass cap.
Okay.
And it's same thing, airtight seal.
Yeah.
We have artists who have called us, and art shops who say, we have a demand just for this because people want to travel. They want to keep two of them. So they have one for just cleaning and they have one for dipping. Yeah. And so you'll see a lot of artists who, in pictures where they have multiple little these up. But hence, that's why these are really handy as well.
Yeah, I just wondered, is this part available for us to get as well? I know we haven't stocked these before.
Yes.
Okay. I kind of like that idea. It's a neat accessory.
Yeah, very handy. So this is our Flask Box. We call it the Scotty Box because we've had a lot of people who use spirits in there. And one of the first artists who loved using it sent us pictures from Scotland, and he traveled all through Scotland pouring in different whiskeys and bourbons and everything else. And so we decided to call it the Scotty. But he kept saying, what's it called? And I said, well, it's just our travel bijou box, Flask Box. So we call it the Scotty Box. And the same thing. And it also holds half pans and full pans.
Okay.
So again, with our track system, it locks them in place. You can have 4 colors, 8 colors. You can mix and match full pans and half pans. If you tend to use a lot, whether it be sepias or a tint of some sort, white or a sepia, Payne's gray, you keep one of the full pans in there, plus all your other colors.
Okay, so 2 things. Merrick is asking if it comes if the flask is filled with Prosecco, and I'm going to say we leave it for the person who buys it to fill it with whatever they want.
Yes, so that's a special order.
Prosecco, whiskey, rye, whatever he likes. The other thing I was going to ask you something else about it, and you know what, Merrick threw me off. So I'm going to think about it, and then I will ask you. But we did also talk about, and I just have a few of these, which is the Foamy Flask.
Yes.
So it's the flask that's on its own.
Correct.
It's got some weight to it.
Yeah, that's a cast iron. Plus, it's dipped in a special tin coating to make it 100% rust proof. Then it's re-dipped into a metal again, and then also baked. So that's why it really has some weight to it.
Yeah.
It has an airtight seal. So that's limited edition. We actually only made less than 100 of those for the world. So you're lucky you're holding one. There's some museums that have them on display. There's some specialty shops in France and Italy that have them on display. And it was almost an anniversary edition that we came out with that to offer that as a stand on its own flask for travel. And as Jackie said, it has some weight to it. It's a really nice flask on its own, and it's packaged with a special foamy case. Yeah. So limited edition, but if Jackie has one, that's quite nice.
Well, it may just have to go in our, display unit. But actually, that's something interesting. Not what I was thinking of before, because Merrick made me forget. But we'll forgive him for that. But I did want to mention. Now it's going to look backwards in the writing. But with each pallet that someone gets, they get these carrying cases with it as well. Correct?
Correct. That's correct.
So each box comes with one. So
Correct.
you don't have to keep it in the box. And they're so lovely. It's like protecting your very expensive purse. And one thing I wanted to mention, so Foamy products are not on the cheap end of the spectrum. This is more of an investment product, correct?
This is a high-end product. Again, the company wanted to develop products that were going to last. The product that an artist can hold on to once they made that investment in that product, whether it be a box or a pallet, it's something that they could trust and was going to stand the length of time to use. And so that's what really separates us from any other type of box out there. We've seen boxes, we've had pictures of artists that have sent, they've had them for 35, 40 years, and they're still working perfectly.
Okay.
We also add the support. So for example, with our Flask Box, someone's out in the field and it gets real windy, all of a sudden they pack everything up in a hurry and they lose the brass top. Well, we'll make sure that an artist always has a brass top. So if a shop calls us in Portugal or in Croatia, they said, oh, our customers, one of them, they lost this, we have it replaced. We make sure the shop has one so that artist can always have our products usable at all times.
Okay. Before we go on, because I do have some other questions, I know people are waving, so I can't really go and click on you to wave. So I'm going to wave and thank everyone for joining us today. For those of you that are just tuning in, Neil Gwartzman, yes, again, he is my brother, is joining us as a special guest to talk about Foamy Art products made in Italy. So Neil, I'd pulled out, and I know we had talked about it, and I'm just going to grab one because I have it here, so I'll ask you about it. This is an empty palette, so I'll just show, actually what I wanted to also show was the fact that these are white. So this is the coated white one that we have, and I know that we did have somewhere, which I probably didn't, oh yes, here we go. We had done with you a special edition of the red.
Canada flag red.
Yeah.
That is the color of the actual RAL color of the Canadian flag that we matched up. It was a special edition that we produced.
Yeah.
And that one actually takes a little bit longer for us to make because of that color is, it's baked on with numerous sessions to have it coated. A beautiful, beautiful palette.
But the red and the traditional black are what is available. And I know that they've been switching more to the matte as opposed to the shiny.
Yeah, I started making, the shiny one is our traditional one, the gloss black. Personally, when I'm traveling with our boxes, it leaves you can see fingerprints. So when, sometimes if I'm using an oil-based product or even, if it's warm and hot and I'm using it with our traditional glossy, I see the handprint, so I'm always out polishing my boxes.
Sure.
And so I decided to test, and at the factory, we tested different finishes. And the matte black, I did a few with matte black, and some friends of mine said, wow, that's, we love the matte. Can you make one for us? And then I had some shops saying, yes, the matte black is a nice alternative because it doesn't show fingerprints. Can we stock both? So we started making both. And then from that, again, trying to test different colors. The white, I think the white looks really classy. It's traditional, but it also has that modern look to it. Sure. And it's just a real clean look. So we started making not all of our boxes in the white, but a good assortment. As the demand builds, we'll keep stock and keep producing all the colors. But the white is almost like a limited edition. So it's something that we don't do in large runs. Because it takes, again, a little bit longer to have the finish of that matte white.
Right. So I had a question for you about this box, just so that we want to just for time.
Yes,
So this one comes empty, right? There are no pans.
correct. We call it the naked box.
Okay. So what can you tell us about this one?
So that box was actually from demand of some field artists, a group actually out of Australia, who said, we love your boxes, we have all of your boxes, but we want to put more in there. We want to have tubes in there, we want to have pans in there, we want to have everything in there, but we want the same strength and quality of the box. What can you make that's empty? So we made a box, and that one slat on top, actually that's a custom one, that so you can put brushes. So you can put 2 travel brushes that aren't mixing in with anything else. You know, if you're a sketcher and you want to keep a small pencil in there, but it was designed to hold a couple travel brushes separate from the pans and the tubes. And the nice thing is it holds, so you can mix tubes in there. You can have your half pans, you can have your whole pans, you can have your quarter pans. I think that one will hold up to about 60 of the quarter pans, 24, maybe no, close to 30 of the half pans. So really a great assortment of an all-in-one travel box with the quality of our boxes.
Now, for us here, I mean, it will hold any of the brands that our customers would be familiar with. So Daniel Smith.
Yes.
My goodness, Winsor & Newton, Roman Small. Now,
Yes.
the Roman Small full pans will also fit in there, correct?
Yes. So it'll hold all brands of pans, half or full. Sorry.
And Schminke too, right?
And Schmenke, yes. Yeah. Every brand we've I can name from, you know, Mary and Sennelier and Schmenke, Winsor & Newton, all of them fit in there. And that's what we, again, seeing what was out there with the color companies, we wanted to make sure that it fit all the brands.
Right.
And as you're holding it, also with our, again, right or left-handed. So this way, if you know you're out in the field, whether you have your tubes of paint or you have your pans, you can have it in your hand.
And the one you're showing, actually, I think I have it here too.
Yes.
One has the pans already in it.
Yes.
So you can actually, what's interesting is someone could buy it like this. They could put their, now they can put their plastic pans in there, correct?
Yes. So whether you use empty pans and you fill it with you're squeezing in your own paints, or you buy the pre-made ones from Schmenke or Roman Small, the Aquarius, any of the brands will fit in there. And again, our tracking system will lock those pans in place.
Cool. I like that. And I was going to say the other one with the travel brush, it would probably be on a smaller scale, like a 2 or a 0 to probably a 4. I don't know.
Yes, so we have seen some of the travel brushes as large as the number 6 fit in.
Yeah. Okay.
And of course, when you have the larger center,
Right.
like this 12 spot does, you can hold, you know, more brushes.
Yeah. You could also put, and a water brush too might fit in there.
It does, correct.
Yeah.
Yes, the refillable water brushes do fit in here as well. And then some people use this section here to put, you know, a piece of sponge. So if they want to wipe off the excess piece, excess paint, I should say, they can just dab it on there.
Yeah, and that's an even bigger one.
Yeah, so that's the giant one. That's what we call the rainbow palette. And that'll hold 24 half pans. It will not hold the full pans, but will hold 24 half pans. And again, you can add more half pounds down the center, but what's nice about that box, it'll hold your traditional size watercolor brush,
right?
With wood handle or plastic handle right down the center.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
Yeah, and again, you have one of the limited edition white ones, which is again just a beautiful box.
Yeah, and it has the bag with it too, which is really nice.
Correct.
I like the way they come boxed too, because they won't get damaged while you're trying to keep it. Some people may want to keep it in the actual boxes, so I do like the packing that they do come in. They're just very, very handy. Now I know that there was one of the really big ones that we have here, and I'm going to show it just because, and it is, I'm going to tell you everybody in advance, because Neil and I talked about it, it is heavy. It's not the kind of thing you're going to carry in your bag. It's a studio palette. So this has some weight to it. This is a
2 kilos.
This is a beautiful, standard, very special palette here. And I know even if I were to put this down, I mean, when I put it down on the table, you could see that it moves. Now, Merrick has asked a question, which we can answer, but I thought I would just show this palette first because it is, I think, Neil, this is the one that we were talking about.
Yeah, amazing palette.
Yeah. And is this the one that's called the Behemoth?
That's a behemoth.
Yeah. I guess
and what's so special, it'll hold everything. It'll hold tubes, half pans, full pans, and where Jackie's right hand is, those large stainless steel pans that also are removable, just really, really popular with encaustic artists who will fill it with their encaustic paint, and they can take those little pallet cups and put them right on their heaters. And so they have the travel heating pans or heating skillets, and that way it stays warm in there and usable.
That's
a lot of artists.
Idea.
Sorry?
I said that's a great idea.
Yeah. So this way, if you're a multimedia artist who's doing, encaustic with gouache, with watercolor, you have your all-in-one palette ready for everything.
Wow.
And as you can see, there's also enough space for holding, any accessories, from brushes to water brushes to, pallet cups. It really does it all. And again, we started producing that as a custom palette for the demand of the studio artist. And Jackie, it is heavy to travel with, but we had, again, artists that were traveling who were on commission, and so they were incorporating multimedia of, again, encaustic or plaster and watercolor and gouache, and they wanted something that they could have ready to go, go on that commission wherever they're traveling to, and have all their paints ready.
Wow. Now, and can you use the top of it for mixing as well, because it is a coated and baked surface?
Yes. All other than the actual, the top of it that you're not going to use.
Right.
But any part of the inside, yes, is usable to mix on.
Oh, okay. All right. Is that another type there, or is that the same one?
This one is our original one that was made again. So this has 48. This was done for, again, the studio artist who wanted the stainless steel cups. It's about equivalent. I don't have the measurement by memory, but it's about equivalent to about 4 full pans.
Wow.
So we have, again, color companies that make custom encaustic paints, oil paints, the water-based oil paints, and they'll have these, pallets made up with them ready, or they keep them, and again, they're available individually as well, empty, but it is the ultimate palette for someone who wants that larger amount of those giant pans of color ready. Again, more for the studio, but because the palette weighs just over 2 kilos.
Wow. We did have a question from Merrick. He was wondering if or how Fome has addressed, which we have seen, and we were trying to talk about this. These pallets don't rust?
They do not. So we have, again, a special system of using stainless steel, as well as we do a special bath, a metal bath that coats it as well to prevent any rusting. And then once that's completely dry, then it goes into its enamel baking process. And that's why, people say, oh, we need boxes. Aren't they made like within a day or so? No, there's a process. It has to go through each process in our factory to have them prepared and finished. And there's drying times. We have each of the artisans and experts in our factory who are metal engineers, designers. We have people who just do the coatings. That's it. They do the coatings and not any other part, because they're expert in making sure that every part is coated, it looks proper. We view every box is done by hand. It's not that we're just, pumping them out, off some machine, every minute. So that's why when we come up with a limited edition, it really is a limited edition, because that's how many we can make in 1 month. And I wanted to give a shout out. I saw Judy Singer, who I saw on there. So hi, Judy Singer. So yes, as far as rust prevention, they're all rust free. Even our easels, our travel easels, stainless steel, rust free. Any of the ones that come in colors of red or black or white, again, have that enamel baking to prevent any rust or protect from the elements of nature.
Okay. I know there was something else I was going to ask you about. Yes, and we had to also talked about a few of the other things that Foamy makes. So I know that they make all these great palettes, and we've touched on, I think, quite a nice selection of them. But didn't you also tell me, and I know that we have had them before, the Camera Lucida?
Yes, so we're also world famous for the Camera Lucida. For people who don't know what that is, it's an optical box that was designed, they say the great masters, Vermeer was one of the ones who, how are his portraits so exact? How could they look so good? And he used a mirror camera system that was based on work with lenses, looked at the object and was able to reproduce. So almost like using a projector without electricity and lights. It was based on prisms and mirrors. And we were the first I shouldn't say the first, we were one of the first to introduce it, because typically they were made more for science and science experiments and the microscopes. We developed it for artists so they could reproduce whether looking at still life or they're doing a portrait, they could have that image put on their canvas. And basically what it does is there's no light, there's no electricity. It's based on reflection and mirror images. So it's sending a ghost image onto your canvas or your paper, doesn't enlarge it, it doesn't shrink it. But again, depending on where the person, for example, if you're doing a portrait, you have your Camera Lucida attached to your easel or to a table aimed at your subject, and then it shoots that image on your canvas. So you can trace it out, the image, and then once you have the outline, then you can do your painting. But there's some great documentaries on showing about Camera Lucidas, that's how the great masters were able to come up with these amazing portraits. We're using that product. And that's another product that Mr. Mennigan introduced. It was back in the late 70s. And again, for the artists, it was actually for restoration. The great masters in the museums who said, hey, we have to restore, but we need it exact. And how are we going to do this? These are Camera Lucida for that. So wow. A great product for if you're just learning how to draw, or you're a master person at doing drawings, but you really want to improve that skill set. It's a great way to do it. And it shows you some of the traditional ways that artists did it, the great masters did it.
And aside from that and the palettes, then they also make sculpture supplies? So
yes. So again, the Mennigan family, again, by demand. I also wanted to mention, because they're two great people in the company, Giovanni and Danielle, the two sons who are running the company with their father, Attilio. They are also engineers and experts with metals, with design. And so we work together all the time. When I say, if we did it this way, is it going to be balanced? Is it going to work? And, we basically throw ideas back and forth to always improve our products as well. Because, again, artists always have different concepts of, how it can work for them and will it work, but we want to make it universal. So with the demand for other art products, and because we really specialize using metals, we started coming out with other products, for example, for sculpture. The metal sculpture stands, whether it be sitting on a table with the ball bearing system. We were the first to use the ball bearing system to make the wheels really turn nicely. And then from the tabletop models going into the larger floor standing models. And then from that, with all the metal and all the use of the sculpture, we started having print masters and people in intaglio and lithography saying, well, to make there's presses out there, there's print presses, intaglio presses. It's using steel, it's using the same type of systems. Can you develop one? And so we started developing print presses for the art industry. I'm going to say our print presses, probably one of the best in the world. There's other countries that do make them, but we're very proud to say, again, we make everything in Italy, all manufactured at our company and with our design. And again, they last for time. So we made everything that would last. And because we're metal experts, it gave us the ability to really make sure it works properly and works great. And the feedback from artists around the world has been exceptional for that. So we make all sizes of the print presses. We're very famous for our small ones that can fit in a studio or a home studio. Anyone working with linoleum or printmaking, our presses are very, very popular for that. And I think Gwartzman's has those.
We do have some of them in stock, and I was going to say I know we also have some of the very large easels that we got from you from Foamy, but we haven't had room to put them on display, so we'll probably have to get some really great photos of some of these items so that customers can see what they look like. Yeah, I think I'm not sure. I haven't seen any questions come up recently. For those of you that have just joined, my name is Jacqueline with Gwartzman's in Toronto, and my guest today is Neil Gwartzman. Yes, Neil is my brother, and he is discussing the Foamy. I don't even know. I mean, I've met the family and the people who work there several times, but it's Foamy International or Foamy Industries?
Foamy Arts. Foamy Arts. Yeah,
okay.
Foamy Arts Manufacturing. And as Jack knew, I'm the director of Foamy North America. So I handle a number of countries, the US, Canada, Mexico, Australia. I get calls from shops in Korea and in China and in Japan, Italy, France, you name it. I get calls from different shops asking because some of these boxes I've actually designed, and I've worked with the company and the family for over 30 years. So we have a great relationship, and I like working with family-run companies. And because everything is done in-house, we really have control of what we're making. It's all, I like to say that we're fair trade, and the staff, we have some of our staff members that have been with us for over 40 years.
Wow.
Because we're such a close-knit run company.
That's great. Well, I don't see any questions coming up, so I think we've had a really great chat about it today, Neil.
Thanks. I was going to say we're also known for our pans. Just, people say that they have to buy pans already with paints. Well, you can buy the pans empty and fill them with paints.
Oh, that's right. Do you have that bag handy you were going to show?
Yeah, we have some artists that say, well, can I buy them in bulk? Can I get, and so I said to one artist, well, how many do you need? He says, well, ship me, what do you have ready? And I went, well, I got a few sacks of these. There's probably about 5,000 in there. He's like, great. He says, I want to have them on hand because I'm always squeezing different paints, making different kits. He has, like I mentioned, different boxes for different seasons on hand. So we make millions and millions of, kind of like the McDonald's, we like to advertise, over 100 million pans made. But yeah, our pans are great quality. They're even dishwasher safe. We have artists that put them in little bags and will wash them out. So again, great quality product that lasts a long time.
That's great. Well, Neil, we're going to sign off.
Well, I want to say thank you so much, Jacqueline, for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I love, helping out artists and helping out shops and helping out companies and just, speaking to people. I speak to artists and art shops every day, asking about different products and things that are available. And we're going to continue to keep it a family-run company in Italy and produce more products. And again, just listen to the people of what they're looking for and what artists will always need as long as we can make them.
That's great. Thank you, Neil.
You're very welcome.
I want to thank everyone for joining us for another Art Talk Tuesday. It's been great having you all. If you have any questions about the Foamy products, please send us a note and you can ask about it. If you see something on the website or anything that Neil mentioned that we don't have, of course I can get it for you and there's no question there. Don't forget to check out our other art talks that we have coming up. And as I've been telling you, we do have some new product announcement also coming up very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. Again, thanks, Neil. And I'm sure I'll be talking to you later.
Thank you, Jacqueline and the Gwartzman's crew and everyone out there. Appreciate the time you've given to me, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye for now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.